Welcome to Engineer's Workshop. For those of you new to the channel, I have a large building that used to be a sawmill. And I bought this kind of as an abandoned building, a derelict property. The building itself is 50 by 125 feet with 17-foot tall sidewalls. It's on a 25-foot module, so the major framing members are at 25-foot increments, so there's 5 bays. And been moving all of the metalworking and some of the fabrication equipment into this building. Doing a lot of house projects over the winter and on through the summer, so I haven't been posting much, but I'm going to try to get back into posting some more videos more frequently since we're going back to school. So one of the things I've done lately is using the lift. I got overhead conduit run from the main panels. I've got 3 conduits run across and one 1-inch air line out of Schedule 40 pipe. So I now have a sub panel over on this wall, and I think what do I have? I have 90 amp capacity on this wall. I can start running outlets left and right, and I can bring my compressed air over here. So all thanks to the lift. This thing's been a godsend. This has controls both on the ground and in the bucket, so I can do the up and down, the in and out, the pivoting from the ground, all those controls in addition to driving it from the bucket. So, great tool to have. I'm going to be using it in an upcoming project too that's going to be a little bit innovative, so we'll talk about that later. So I've been kind of on a buying spree, Facebook Marketplace and eBay. Got a number of items to show you, and so let's just dive right into that. So what you saw us unloading was a warehouse lift from the early 20th century. I don't know the exact date. This warehouse lift was a Facebook Marketplace find, and it only has about a 300-pound capacity, and we can't decide whether it was overloaded at one time or it has a belly in it for so things kind of tend toward the center, but obviously this front brace here was overloaded and it pulled in, so my son's got some forging work to do to straighten this out. And I bought some McMaster hex leaded stock to reproduce these hex fasteners. I got one missing here, and a bigger one to reproduce that guy, because on the other side it just has a bolt. But it's a combination of riveted and bolted construction, just makes it pretty neat. And like I said, it's manually operated, so once you pull this down, that lifts it up onto the rear wheel, and you have a hand crank that brings that up, and there is a brake and a ratchet that holds it in place. And let me see if I can show you how this thing can come down. It's got actually 2 positions. This is the low gear, greater mechanical advantage, or if you feel particularly strong, you can drop that into the lower setting and crank up lighter loads a lot faster. So I have it all the way up, and I wanted to show you one of the more adventurous ways of getting your load back down quickly versus having to crank it down, because you have to hold that latch away from the ratchet in order to lower it. But like I said, this is a brake. It's a band brake, goes around a drum. And what you have to do is, first and foremost, you keep your fingers out of the gears, because, you know, this is before OSHA and you're not supposed to stick your fingers in gears. I guess what happened is, hey, Joe crushed his fingers in the gears. We need another worker over here. But you release the clutch, and then you feather the brake until the load starts lowering. And it starts coming down kind of quickly, but then you can slow it. This warehouse lift is made by a company called Economy Engineering, and I think it's in Chicago. Yeah, Chicago. And the serial number on this is C4344. This company is listed in Keith Rucker's, vintagemachinery.org's database, but there's like maybe one or two pamphlets in there, or zero examples of anybody owning any equipment from it. So this is a first. It is really cool. Take particular note of all of the fasteners here. These are oversized hex fasteners with crowned heads. There's got some square head fasteners as well. And I am missing one or two items. I think I'm missing, yeah, here's a fastener there. The one on that side is missing. So I have some stock, some hex stock 12L14 leaded easy turning stock to duplicate that. Also got to duplicate that pin on the other side, because that's just a bolt, but this is the original pin. It has a taper and a little locking key that goes in there, because the top of this actually flips down, and that little socket that you see right up there is to screw a piece of 3/4 inch pipe on to give you something to hold on to as that top is coming down, because let me tell you what, it is heavy. Everything about this thing is heavy. It has a 300-pound capacity, and you just roll it around. When you pick it up, it lifts the back legs off the ground, pretty free rolling, and that anchors it down. What am I going to do with this, you say? Well, we've got a piece of warehouse shelving. Probably going to have more of this in the future. And right now I don't have anything up on that top shelf that can't be put up there by hand. It's just empty boxes and stuff like that. But this gives me a way to put heavier things up on that top shelf. All of my Monarch lathe components are down here right now. No, you're not seeing double. I seem to be accumulating a lot of tooling for the tool and cutter grinder lately, and I came across on eBay a workhead. So this one that I'm oiling here now is my new one. This was my original, and I think they're virtually identical. A little bit of difference here on the Brown and Sharp side in the way this thing is set up, but this mount are the same. 50 taper on the back. Big difference is this one is in a lot nicer shape. It spins very freely. This one is stiffer, but something in that has a little bit of a tight spot there. I don't know if it's just due to oil or grease sitting in there for so long. But one thing I learned getting this is this collar is separate from the actual main bore, most likely tightening these set screws is what takes care of that. And this one, everything was tightened up. I didn't know they turned separately. It shows you how much I know about these things. But now that I have that one, I just loosened up those set screws, and yeah, this one spins as well. Once again, a little stiffer, has a little bit of a tight spot. Both except the right angle foot that I found separately. I don't know if I showed that to you before, but I'm now almost all the way having a mounting set up for the workhead. I do need a base. If I can't find a base, I will make one out of a chunk of steel. I've got a number of chunks of steel over on the side, and I can duplicate something like that without too much of a problem. Also picked up a 24, is it 24? Yes, 24 position index plate that says it's for a Cincinnati, but it's not directly mountable to this. What I'll do is I'll end up making an adapter ring for that, because I also have to make a drive pulley to drive this with a motor. You may ask why I got a second workhead. Well, this thing was stupid cheap. $89 plus like 20 bucks to ship. I think it literally came out to less than 100 bucks delivered off eBay. And hey, you know, I'm not going to argue. So I can have one set up for maybe doing, you know, OD grinding on small parts, put a chuck on it. And the other one I could set up for tooling. So this way I've got two, I've got some flexibility. Motor. Let me show you a motor I found. Also managed to find an actual original workhead motor, Cincinnati workhead motor. So this is a little 1/4 horsepower, 3-phase. It's the smallest 3-phase motor I think I've come across. This was a little pricier. This I think I paid $250 for, but you know, it's the first time I've seen one on eBay. So I snagged it and hooked it up to my VFD. My VFD takes a stupid long time to come up to frequency, but runs very smooth. Already set up for 220. So now I've got two workheads. I've got a original motor, you know, workhead drive motor. Has a V-belt pulley, so I can make a matching shiv to mount onto the workheads, and I'm good to go. Here we have a LW Chuck indexer. Since this needs a little bit of cleanup and restoration work, we'll leave this for the subject of its own video, but very nice unit. Stopped by my machinist buddy in Ohio and picked up a few more items. He had set aside a couple pairs of vice jaws that fit the Kurt vise. This pair he had modified with holes here for holding different angles, so that's kind of handy. This is a brand new pair in the box. And then once again I selected some cutters from, I think these are 1 inch all the way down to about 1/8 inch. Some brand new, double-ended, high-speed, solid carbide, just a good mix. 2 flute, 4 flute. One of these is a 3 flute. I haven't seen many. That's a 4. Must be that one. 3 flute. Haven't seen many of those. And like I said, yeah, down to 1/8 inch. Very nice. Didn't have many of the smaller ones. For the K&T, a lot of these are regrinds, still in their rubber protection. So very happy to have these. I think the only one was $5 a piece. You know, on average, that's not too bad. So I stocked up. We'll be able to use all those on the K&T and the bigger ones on the Rosenfors. One of the things on my to-do list is to grind the jaws of this chuck and others that I have to improve their holding ability at the nose. Like a few different people have put videos out about this. Dee has a fixture that he made, but I started looking at what I wanted to do, And I knew I had to hold these jaws open big enough to get a grinding wheel in here. And so I looked at what the geometry of the outermost pieces were, and I came up with this. Made this from 1/2-inch mild steel, just did it up in CAD, from Send Cut Send. And 1/2 inches, incidentally, is the thickest material that they'll do. But these pockets will clear this jaw and the jaw on my super spacer, so I could do 2 for 1. So I'm going to take this off and see how it fits. You'll get to see this real time if I screwed up. Looks like it works. So I'm holding that flush against the face, and then I can tighten the jaws. And that loads this so that when I come in here with an ID grinder, the toes of the jaws will have been sprung outward, and more of the grinding dressing will be done on the inside of the jaws and allow that outer surfaces to develop a clamp. I did stress analysis on this, and the ring really doesn't matter because the thickness that's left here isn't really stressed. There's a clamping force essentially from here to here, here to here, here to here. So those are just in compression, those 3 things right there. But that looks like that'll do what I want it to do. So we'll set up one day with the tool post grinder and dress these jaw faces down. Meanwhile, I'll give this a coat of oil so it doesn't rust up on me. I went ahead and trued up the OD in the faces of this, chamfered the edges because it was pretty sharp, just being either laser cut or high def plasma cut. The inside is still pretty wicked, but I'm never going to get my fingers in there anyway. So we'll put this on the shelf for another day when we grind those chuck jaws. And like I said, this also fits the jaws of the Hartford Super Spacer. Of course, I've got these reversed now, but that will sit in there and load those jaws correctly as well once I've got those reversed, and I can grind this the same way. I don't know that that's as critical, but just wanted to have a fixture that was capable of doing both since they were such similar size. Now this was a much needed item, not very exciting, but as you can see behind me, this building has a lot of openings that there's no way to shut them up. So happened to cross an overhead door that was not too far away. And I mean, I'm open to different sizes. Bigger is obviously better, but this is a nice size. This is a 10.5 foot wide by almost 12 foot tall door. And it's gonna go in the middle of this opening. I think what we're gonna do is gonna come out past these connections here, and I'll end up putting probably a 36-inch or 42-inch just entry door that I can come in and out of the building under this covered porch, a little bit of space, and then we'll have this 10.5 foot one centered up right about here. And that girt is 12 feet high. I think that the uprights fit underneath that. The uprights are equally massive because, well, this guy told me it was a barricade door, and I didn't really know what that meant. So, well, you can't drive through it with a car. So I know they have the kind that are just corrugated, steel, which are pretty flimsy, but this one is all individual slats, and I'll tell you what, it is heavy. I tried to lift one side of it, and I can't budge it. If I put a strap around it and go around my shoulder, I could just get the thing off the ground on one end. So I'm gonna guess it weighs at least 600 pounds, maybe closer to 700. which is going to make it interesting to put up. But I have a method. I think I'm going to use my lift, my man lift, which has a rated capacity of 500 pounds on the bucket. But the 500 pounds is so that when that thing's sticking out, you know, horizontally, almost 8 feet, that it doesn't overturn. If I keep the bucket close to the body and just use it in a vertical mode, I'm going to make a little carriage to hold this thing. You know, get the lift, you know, drive the lift up right in this proper position once I have the two uprights, and then just lift the mast vertically, and that'll hold it in place while we bolt the carrier pieces, which are like 1/4 inch thick plate. And those are actually probably, I would say, at least 10 gauge, and they bolt onto the uprights, and then we'll have a roll-up door, and then I'll just wall the rest of it off with corrugated siding to match. So I'm very happy to have this. I could use about three more of them, and 2 of them I'd like to be 12 by 16. I wasn't set on getting the barricade style. I'd be fine with just the corrugated ones, just to get the building enclosed, because, you know, all this dirt and filth, there's as much of this inside as there is outside. It just, I can vacuum it all out, clean it up, and it just keeps coming in. So got to get everything enclosed. The uprights are 3 by 3 by 3/16 angle with a track with I think it's a 2 by 3 track bolted on. These are heavy as well. These probably weigh 100 pounds a piece. And likely these are heavy enough that they don't really need to be fastened to anything except the concrete at the bottom, and then up at the top of that girt. Just have to see if there's a way to fasten siding to these things. Make a couple of L brackets, and maybe step it back and put a 2 by 8 or 2 by 6 or something on the front side of that, and then I can fasten siding into that. So we'll make something work without having to buy a bunch of steel pieces to complete that 25-foot opening. Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick shop update. See some of the equipment and tools and toys that we've been buying to keep outfitting the shop here. Long way to go. A lot of things still yet to do, but we're pecking away at them one at a time. So got a couple of machining projects upcoming. Got the chuck jaws, obviously I got to do on the lathe, but I've got to work on the body. It's an aluminum body of an injection pump, a Bosch injection pump, and the little pressure regulating valve for the primary chamber, the threads got screwed up in it, and the only thing we can think to do is to make a sleeve and press the sleeve in, and it has an M16 by 1 thread, which is like an extra fine version of a metric thread. And I'm going to use the same stock that I bought for these bolt heads. I'm going to use the hex stock and try to, either chase the threads in there with a tap or single point them with the lathe. We got to get a good surface finish. You got to get the diameters just right and press that in to the body of that pump. And then he's got to send that off for a rebuild anyway, so that part has to be repaired, so it's still a good, it's either a good core or they can use it in the rebuild. So lots of fun projects like that coming up. We'll keep you updated as time rolls on here. Thanks again for watching and subscribing. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and you can look back through all the old videos and see all the fun things that I've been working on. So enjoy the break in the weather. It's a little bit cooler here today, and man, I'm loving it. I'm taking advantage of it. So I hope you can do the same. Till then, as always, from Engineers Workshop, stay safe.